It's time to discuss the driver, and specifically the things that you're doing right now that are making you more erratic and robbing you of distance with this club. These are things that you're actively trying to do that are making you worse, not better. In today's video, I'll share with you a view of the swing that you don't often see, but will help to unlock the secrets that the best players in the world are using to hit the driver higher and farther than ever. If you want to hit your driver better than ever before, then I recommend you stick around and watch this video to learn that secret for yourself. And that secret is that the tour players understand there doesn't need to be an excessive weight shift away from the ball in the backswing with the driver. That's often a tip that's associated with this club more than any other. The idea that you need to set up to the ball, lean back a little bit, and then shift your weight in the backswing. That's getting you into more trouble than you believe, and I'll show you how the best players do it, which is contrary to that advice. So let's shift here to a camera angle that you don't often get to see, and that's the camera position behind me from this posterior view, showing the swing from the backside. You don't see this too often either in television coverage or in a golf lesson, but it's quite a nice view to see the pelvis and how the weight would move with the lower body throughout the swing. I'll start out by saying that as you set up with the driver, there's a need to have a little bit more weight on the front side. That helps to create a small tilt of the spine. But from there, once we start to swing back, there should be no movement to the right, no breaking of the line that would be represented here by my right hip at setup, meaning I can make a very functional backswing with the driver and never move my pelvis to the right. That flies in the face of how a lot of people are told to hit the driver. You need to shift your weight to the trail foot to build up power. You need to have your weight on your back foot to hit up on the ball. Neither of those things are true, but what they are doing is making your contact more erratic and making you swing across the ball, which is robbing you of potential power. This isn't just me saying this. If we show you a swing here of one of the best players in the world. This is Charles Howell III practicing here with the driver, and you'll see there's no shift in his backswing. The pelvis stays more or less centered, and then in the downswing there's a large pelvic sway towards the target. I can show you this with other great drivers of the golf ball. Probably my favorite driver of the golf ball in the world is Rory McIlroy. Rory may have a very tiny little shift in the pressure in his feet as he starts to move the club back, but you'll see very quickly how his lower body conforms to what I've been saying. There's no shift away from the target. He's turning his hips around that center point, and then in the downswing and the follow through, continuing to move the weight more forward. In fact, that's one of the myths I really want to bust in this video. The weight needs to be more forward with the driver than any other club. That means when I hit the ball, I've got more weight on my forward leg by virtue of the hip sway than I would have in a 6-iron or a pitching wedge. More weight forward with the driver. That's not often what you hear in general golf instruction. So using this camera angle where I have the camera placed behind me, I can place some markers on the outside of my hips and make sure that I turn my right hip back behind me. One of the nice references I like to use is if I was to take the midpoint of my pelvis, which can be represented by the belt loop in my pants here, I would turn my right hip, turn my trail hip to the midline, I move my right hip in the backswing to the midline. This does a number of things. It already discussed, it helps me make a more centered pivot. It also helps you make a larger backswing, a longer backswing, because I'm able to get more rotation into that backswing, get my hands and club further around me by virtue of this hip moving backwards. And it also serves to benefit me in the downswing, whereby I can swing more from the inside when my pelvis is forward. That helps me to swing more from in to out, as opposed to what a lot of you are doing, which is where the pelvis moves backwards. So this would be away. This would really be a reverse pivot. This would be the pivot reversing, the hips moving back. You see from the down the line camera how that makes me susceptible to swinging across the ball. Pelvis moving back makes me swing from out to in. If you slice the ball, I promise you this will be part of your swing, part of the problem that you need to fix. You actually need to have the weight more forward. You need to have the pelvis more forward. Notice how as I push my hips forward towards the target in the downswing, from this down the line perspective, that helps me to swing into out for longer. And again, demonstrated by the best players. Rory McIlroy is one of the best drivers of the golf ball in the world. Charles Howell, one of the greatest players on tour over the last 20 years. These guys are demonstrating good form that you are not being told to do. This lie that's being told to you about the driver is costing you shots. So I want you to pay attention to this information. And now I'm going to share with you a drill that you can do at home in order to help you apply this to your own game. So I've set up a little practice station here which will allow me to hit balls and also get feedback on whether I'm doing this correctly or not. This is the tripod from iRange Sports that I use in a lot of lessons to create training stations and practice environments that force golfers to conform to new movement patterns. I'd encourage you to set up something similar. If you don't have this particular tripod, you could grab your golf bag or maybe a chair or something from home that you'd place up against your trail hip. You'll see as I set up here, I've got the tripod and the rod just a tiny bit outside of my trail hip, and the goal here would be for me to make a backswing where I stay away from this rod. I may even increase the space slightly. I would say to you, if you struggle with slicing, getting your pelvis more forward and away from this line would be something that would be advantageous to you. As you do that, you're going to be able to make a bigger hip turn and a bigger shoulder turn as mentioned. And if you struggle with this movement, take a look at your knee flex change. Ensure that your right leg or your trail leg is straightening as you make a backswing, which will give your right hip the freedom to go up, back and behind you. Remember, we said the right hip to the midline. We're moving the right hip to the midline in the backswing. As you swing down, your goal would be to keep feeling like you move your pelvis further and further away, as far away from this stick as you can. And that, as I say, will encourage you to swing more into out, help you to create an upward angle of attack, which you might want with the driver, and help you to hit with more ball speed, more efficiency, as it were. Deliver this club on a much more efficient path, which will produce greater distance. So stay away from the stick in the backswing by moving the right hip to the midline, and then move the whole pelvis more forward and away from that rod in the downswing. That's a more typical driver shot that I would associate with my swing pattern. Push, draw, club path was to the right, into out. And as I said to you, that would be much more likely to happen with this lower body movement. If you struggle to hit the ball as far as you'd like to, if you struggle to not slice and even to draw the ball like I just did, this will really help, as opposed to what you're being told to do, which is to move the weight back. That's actually causing you to slice more. This would be an example of that swing. If I was to swing back and consciously move my pelvis into this stick, and as a double whammy, try to almost feel like I keep my weight back through impact in a way that maybe you're being told to do for the driver. You're supposed to be back, behind it, try to hit up on it. Interestingly, you saw how far forward my weight was on that last swing. That had an angle of attack of 1.5 degrees up. So the idea that you cannot hit up on your driver with all of your weight forward is a complete myth. What I'm going to do this time is shift my weight to the right in the backswing. You'll see that as I nudge the rod going back, and then I'll try and stay back and behind the ball again, as a lot of people are told to do with this club. Let's compare the numbers between these two balls, the one I just hit and this one where I keep the pelvis back behind the ball. My ball speed dropped by about 10 miles per hour, and the ball flight is a curve to the right. The distance dropped by about 20 yards. So the efficiency of strike is worse when you move your pelvis back and you keep your weight back through the ball. The correct way to hit driver is to move the weight the farthest forward in the downswing to create the correct body alignments that we need at impact. Once again, This isn't just me saying this. This is what's demonstrated by the best drivers of the golf ball in the world. So practicing this movement and practicing this motion might be quite new for you. The idea that you have to keep your hip away from this stick in the backswing and the downswing could be a very new feeling for you. So if you find it difficult to coordinate all of this while hitting the ball, I'd encourage you to start out by making some small, dry practice swings without the ball, setting into a position where you have some feedback against your right side. Make a backswing where you actually check to see that you create this space here between the obstacle and the right hip. That will allow you to make that full turn like we talked about. And then as you come down, just moving everything further away, getting used to what it's like to propel your lower body, the pelvis, forward. That's sliding the hips, that's gliding the knees towards the target. That's really the secret to being a good driver of the golf ball. If you pay attention to what the best players are doing, you'll see this movement is demonstrated uniformly by all of them. So if you want to improve your driver, if you want to hit it higher, straighter and further than you've ever hit it before, then implement this pelvic hip motion into your backswing and your downswing, and I promise you, your driving will improve immeasurably. For many of you, that information about keeping the pelvis and the weight forward with the driver will be contrary to what you've heard before. But I'm asking you to pay attention to what the best golfers do. Success leaves clues. If you copy what the best players do, you'll have a chance of recreating some of the positive results that they see. This is especially valuable if you slice the golf ball and feel like you should hit your driver further than you currently do. This will add more distance back into your driver game. If you want to set up a practice station similar to the one that I did in today's video, then I'll leave a link to the iRange Sports Tripod down in the description. It's a product that I use daily in my lessons to create practice stations, and it's also a great tripod that you can use for filming your golf swing when you're using your phone or your iPad to film your golf swing when you practice. If you want to take a look at that, you can check that out down in the description. I recently launched my new YouTube membership on the channel for people who wanted to get more videos from me. If you're already a member, thank you for joining. If you'd like to get involved, I'll leave a link down in the description that you can click to join the channel. You'll get exclusive access to these videos before everybody else. And there's also member-only content that I'll only release to members of the channel. As I say, if you're already joined, thank you for being a part of the community. And if you'd like to find out more, please click on the link down in the description. If anyone watching in the United States is interested in taking some in-person instruction with me, I'll be in Florida next week from the 7th to the 13th of April. I look forward to meeting with you if you're interested in joining either an individual lesson session or a clinic, one of which I'm teaching with my great friend and mentor, Andy Plummer. You can come and learn how to hit this club better than ever before by taking some instruction in person next week. If you'd like more information on the clinics or the individual lesson options, there's a link to my website which will give you more information, or you can reach out to me directly at the email address that I'm placing right here. And if you're ready to continue your driver education on how to keep the weight forward with the driver more so than any other club, then go and watch this video next. This is the wrench drill driver edition. This one blows people's minds. If you watch this, I promise you'll hit the driver better than ever before.